This subject is one that I have not heard many people speak about, if ever, and again, it's something that I've pondered a lot because this is the contemplation series, after all. It's primarily a theory of mine, and it's not something that is explicitly stated in the Bible, but there is evidence of it throughout. And though I say theory, I just don't think it's that much of a stretch. I don't think this idea reaches too hard, and it just kind of makes sense in my brain. What I'm talking about are natural and supernatural laws. Nobody is here to argue about the laws of physics, but what many might debate is where they come from. My take as a Christian is that it all came from God, right? He created the earth, he created the science. He might have even done it via a Big Bang. But whether or not you believe in God, there are laws of nature that are just going, right? They just work on their own, and we are coexisting with them. Like in the category of physics, there's motion, conservation, universal gravitation, to name a few. Outside of that are ones that are actually referred to as natural laws, such as the law of attraction, relativity, rhythm, which is a really cool one, by the way. Anyway, I don't want to ramble too much because there's a universal agreement on those, I think, and they're pretty accessible and obvious to anyone with any sort of education. What I want to dive into in this video is the concept of supernatural laws, because that's where the conversation grows scarce, at least in my experience. So what I think can be defined as a supernatural law is karma, for example. Some people believe that karma is hocus pocus bogus. What I believe is that it is real, but is a misguided interpretation of something that is biblical. And the name for it in the Bible is reaping what you sow. Another example is one I find sort of strange to call supernatural or a law, but is some sort of intangible thing that people really believe in, which is the idea that you spend to earn. It sort of works in tandem with reaping and sowing, but that verse has more to do with your faith and deeds proceeding into your treasure in heaven. Whereas this one's a category of its own, and the biblical story that I think most relates to this is the parable of the talents. And I'm calling this the law of investment, which I didn't make up, aside from the name for the sake of this video, because it gets touched on a lot in entrepreneurial spaces and financial self-help style books. It's something that business people really understand. And let's be very clear, you do not have to be a Christian for these to work. It's just like a river that some people can find and just jump into, and then it takes them. What I see is that more unbelievers actually leverage these to their advantage than believers. And I think it's because they just put more faith into the laws at their level that they understand them. Whereas Christians get bogged down by silly legalistic semantics or what not to do, such as being overly passionate about avoiding greed and therefore not even trying to take advantage of wealth in a healthy way. This happens because the verse about the love of money gets taken out of context, and then things escalate to avoiding the subject of money altogether, even though we literally need it on this planet to survive.
But we should only have enough money to just survive, and anything more could inflate your pride and make you not rely on God anymore.
So give generously even though you have nothing to give, and thank God for what you have.
The way I look at wealth is that it is a tool. It's an extension of your power and responsibility in the hands of the good-natured. It is a beneficial asset for themselves and their families, for their communities, and for God's kingdom. In the hands of the bad-natured, it doesn't corrupt, but accelerates the corruption that was already there and just inflates their selfishness. I've digressed a lot from the point of this video again, but money is a touchy subject, okay? And I don't know what the wider consensus is among Christians, to be honest, but I definitely think that among the circles I was exposed to growing up, that I have a much more sensible take on the subject. Maybe I'll talk about it in another video. But back to the point, which was that I believe there are more laws than those that have already been universally agreed upon. Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's interesting. I think it's funny that the secular world taps into laws that the Bible lays out pretty clearly, way more frequently and effectively than Christians do. And most aren't even aware that that's what they're doing. If they do, they call it something different. Most Christians aren't even aware they exist, from my experience, which is crazy because there's even people in the Bible who, use them. But they're not the focus, of course. If you're a Christian, faith and obedience to God comes first, no matter where he has you in life. You're not pursuing after these laws as if they are the answer to your problems. But I think it's good to stay curious, to have your wits about you. He gave you a brain for a reason. At some point, you become an adult with agency and don't need your parents to wipe your butt. And I feel like that's how we treat our walk with God sometimes. We use our faith and waiting on God as an excuse to sit around in life, literally just expecting God to just hand us things on a silver platter, when I feel like he's saying, I gave you the tools already to go and do. You don't need to ask my permission for every little thing. Yes, include me in what you do. Fast and pray and seek my face. But stop hesitating in life. If you read and understand my word, then you already should know what my answer would be. Stop hesitating. Stop hesitating. All right, bye.